So, a kind of fun and crazy story that recently happened to me is that I had a client here in the United States and I coached her for a while. And most recently, I made a house call to see her. And the house call was actually in Italy. So, yes, I got on a plane. I flew all the way to Italy to meet with my coaching client, who now is actually my business partner. So, we have two things going on. I'm her coach, and I'm also a business partner with her.
Wow.
So my name is Laurie Moroco, and I'm an honorary insurance dudette.
Insurance dudes are on a mission to escape being handcuffed by our agencies.
How? By uncovering the secrets to creating a predictable, consistent, and profitable agency sales machine.
I am Craig Pretzinger.
I am Jason Feldman.
We are agents.
We are insurance dudes.
Boom! Well, that is awesome. You never know what's going to be on the other end of a crazy request or potentially interesting idea. How did it lead to that? What was going through your mind?
Well, what was going through my mind is, wow, this is a really big house call. I mean, yeah, I'll meet with people for coffee at the local coffee shop down the street, but to get on a plane and fly to Italy to meet with somebody, okay, why not? I mean, that's good. Plus, we were working on our business venture together over there. So it kind of just worked out that we could do both at the same time. But that's the biggest house call I've ever made for a coaching client. And I will go anywhere, all over the world for my clients.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Italy prior?
Yes, about 15 times.
Wow.
So it wasn't a stretch to make me get
You're like, well, I'll go there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would love to go to Italy.
It's amazing.
It's on my hit list.
Oh my gosh.
It's on my list.
Yeah. Italy, Spain. I just did Portugal for a month and that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But Spain and Italy are the next ones, I think.
Okay. I'll hook you up. Let me know if you need
Ooh,
travel.
I like it.
I'm in California and I just happened to get a business partner that was in Arizona. I wish mine was in Italy, but now he's international. So there might be.
Maybe I will be in Italy.
Never say never. Do what you got to do for your clients.
Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are, and let's just dive in.
Okay. So my background has been in higher education since, well, a really, really, really long time ago, 20 plus years. I started at a college in Western Pennsylvania, tenured professor, chair of the department. Then I moved to Colorado with my family to try it for a year. And most people that try living in the mountains of Breckenridge never really leave. So I was teaching at a college out here. I became a dean of the college. And I thought, well, I kind of need my own gig. Like I need my own side hustle. And so I thought, well, I teach people about business and communication in the classroom, but I would love to take that knowledge and give it to people in the workforce or in the business world. And so I started coaching. I started coaching women who were starting businesses. And then most recently, and interestingly enough, my niche has kind of found me. And that is really women in career transition. And they don't have the assertiveness or the confidence to make that change. And so I'm kind of like, you can do this, you can do this. And we kind of go through all the different feelings and how to get to where they want to be. And we network. And so it's been really, really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How do you navigate that? We all go through that feeling of, I don't know where I am. Like, where do I want to be? How do you get that definiteness?
Well, I think what I do is I build relationships with my clients. So I almost become friends with them and I get really, really invested in their lives as much as they want me to be. And so it's like I'm talking to my friend and I really kind of approach it from that angle. Like, okay, well, what is your skill set? And what do you really want to do in life? If you can do anything. So I encourage big picture thinking. And then I really get a feel for what they're passionate about. And then we start talking about, okay, well, if this is where you want to be and this is where you are, what are the things we have to do to get there? And we just make a plan. I become their accountability partner. I check in with them. How's it going? Weekly meetings. And so it's kind of just a really fun journey that we go through together. And then they realize this is really what I want to do in life and I'm going to do it. And I'm kind of like, yeah, you can do it. So
So
That's sort of the journey that we take.
So transitioning from, because you're no longer in the higher education.
I still am.
Oh, you still are?
It's my heart really is in higher ed. I just do both.
Okay. How do you see the difference in receptiveness of the information in the real world versus in what some call the ivory tower?
Yeah. So I think in higher ed, we tend to be more theory based, and we're, professing all this great knowledge and that they may or may never use again. Right. But in the real world, I can kind of take that theory that I know and that I've researched, but make it practical. So my whole thing about teaching, no matter where I'm teaching, is praxis or theory informed action. So I can give you the theory, but let me show you how you implement that in real life and how you can make it work for you. And I always say, I'm giving you tools for your tool belt so that you can take these essential skills and use them in real life. So I have a little formula for having an assertive conversation and conflict management. A lot of people don't like conflict, but here's how you can address that in an assertive manner. So I give them really practical tips, which, not so much in higher ed if you're in a philosophy class or something.
Is it because of like Maslow's hierarchy of need, where it's like people are just more
self-actualization type?
Yeah.
Let's make you the best version of yourself. And what does that look like to you? And really, it's kind of defined by every woman on her own terms. I mostly work with women. Not to say I would never work with a man, but it's just, I feel like women really, really need that support system. And we become this like sisterhood and girl power and everything. So, it's fun to sort of work in that arena. I love it.
That's so cool.
I saw you have something in common with Jason. You have 4 kids.
I do.
And you're a dean and you're running a coaching business.
With some other hats thrown in there, but yeah.
How?
I think when you have 4 kids, you can do anything, right? Like you just can do you can have a million balls in the air. And I think it's just started from, I was having this conversation the other day with my coworker, and she's like, how did you do it? Cause she's a young mom and I'm, not a young mom anymore. And, I was like, I just wanted it all. Like I didn't want to make any sacrifices. I wanted to get my PhD when I had an infant and a 2-year-old, and I wanted a big family. So I had, kids during my PhD program, graduated with 4, started with 2. And I just want everything. I just want it all. And I'm pretty, when I put my mind to something, I can do it. And I like to be busy and I like creative outlets. So someday I'll slow down, but not for a while.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny. Like when you get to that many kids and stuff, like it's like, what's something else? Like there's so much stuff going on. What's something else? Like you just kind of move stuff around
and then they get older. So mine are in their 20s, so they're adulting. So I'm like, oh, I have all this extra time. I can start new businesses, or you just keep replacing things.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Everybody has the same number of hours in the week, right? 168 hours. And so it's interesting how one can say, I want it all. I'm going to do it all. I'm going to get a PhD and have kids at the same time and do all this. And then others could use, I got pregnant, or we're having kids and now I'm done with, I can't pursue that anymore. Right?
Exactly. And no judgment. I mean,
right.
Whatever you need to do to be happy and fulfilled in life, do it. I mean, I never judged my friends who wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That just wasn't for me. I tried it for a year and I was like, no, this is really too hard. I need to go to work. So it's whatever works again.
Yeah. I feel like people would they come up with the reasons to, I don't want to beat them up here, but it's like, it's easy as humans to, when an obstacle comes in the way, to use it as the excuse to not keep going forward and just blame, instead of, oh, well, it probably can be done because it has been done and you've proven that it can be done. So
I have to say that's kind of a frustration for me, is when I have these super talented women and they have these goals and I know they can do them, and I kind of give them the recipe for it, and they're just like, I'll be like, did you do that one thing? No. I'm like, okay, like I can't force people to do things. I can give them the tools, but if they don't want to do it, it's really hard to step back and like probably like a doctor, right? Like you tell your patients to eat healthy and don't smoke and don't abuse anything, and they do it anyway. And you're like, well,
they're out in Vegas every weekend.
Yeah, like I know what you need to do, but only you can do that. So that's hard for me. I have to be like, okay, not my life. This in her time, she'll do it.
Right. It's the action, right? It just requires the action. And I think a lot of times it's hard to just get the first foot past the obstacle and keep going.
Oh, motivation. I mean, every day you have to do something to stay motivated if you're going to have a business or work toward a new career goal or whatever that is, an email a day or LinkedIn, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One foot in front of the other every day.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
100%. So I wanted to ask you a few questions about an insurance agency.
Yeah.
Since you have so much knowledge with coaching and I mean, essentially that's what we do with our teams, right? And we try to get the best out of them for themselves, but for our agencies as well. Like, how do you create a workplace culture of acceptance and all the different viewpoints that you might have in an agency?
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, I have a little bit of knowledge of the insurance industry from a business perspective. And what I keep hearing over and over and over again is there's this like power struggle almost between people. And so it's like this conflict resolution. What they're looking for, I think, is what I've heard actually from the ones that I've dealt with. And so, I think there's some skills and some tools that people can use if they're in a workplace with people that have different opinions and different objectives and different perspectives and biases. And so in a nutshell, to me, what it comes down to is just being civil, kind people with one another. And I lately have been doing a lot of keynotes on civil discourse and what that looks like in the organization. I mean, we've had a lot of things happen in the past 4 years. There's more big things happening that can divide people at work. I mean, we went through, a contentious election almost 4 years ago. We went through a pandemic. We're about to enter another contentious election. And so things like politics and just social media and all these things get in the way of people's perspective and the way they treat other people. And so I think there's some things we can do and say dealing with communication and around communication.
And what would those, what are some things that would help? Because it's definitely something that's needed. And I think you're right. Like there's been a lot going on and it's almost like we've been trained to be more sensitive in a way too. Yeah. It's almost like things can be taken incorrectly a lot. So now there's like multiple levels of problems that can arise between staff members and team members.
Oh, absolutely. Well, for instance, I like to tell my clients when I'm, coming in and doing consulting or coaching for organizations, we've heard of this idea of a safe space, right? Where, in higher ed, we'll put these little triangle rainbow stickers on our door. And that means safe space, come in, it's safe. Like I'm going to support you. And yes, everybody needs a support system. But what I like to talk about is a brave space. So I'll invite you into my safe space, but also I'm going to push you a little bit. I'm going to ask you things that might be uncomfortable because I want to have a dialogue with you. I want to see your perspective on something. A safe space is very polite. And we're just like, oh, yeah, you're right. But a brave space is like, tell me more about that. I want to know more. I don't agree with that, but I want to know where you're coming from so that we can then find common ground and meet in the middle, put our differences aside and still focus on the task at work, whatever that is. And then we have just knowing our own personal biases and knowing that, okay, I have a bias against this, but I can't let that get in the way. You are voting for this person, I'm voting for this person, but how can we put those differences aside and still come together? So again, it's that common ground, being open-minded, being tolerant, being respectful, supportive, again, being brave, being a really good listener.
A big word comes to my mind that starts with an E.
I can think of a lot of E words.
And it rhymes with sympathy.
Oh, does it rhyme or empathy?
Yeah. Right? Be empathetic.
I guess they rhyme a little bit.
Close enough. I mean, not for the dean's list, but yes. I mean, for me, it's close.
They rhyme in our world. Yeah.
We're in the insurance world. It's like fuzzy.
Right. Yeah. Empathy. Absolutely. And speaking of that, I was having another conversation the other day with somebody like this server was just really, really rude to me and they're not getting a good tip. And I said, have you ever asked the person, because I've done this, and I've said, you look really frustrated. Are you having a bad day? And I was not being a jerk about it. Like, I really wanted to know, like, what's going on? Because something's off right now with you. And I'm like, yeah, actually, this was a complete stranger, bartender. It's like, now that you mention it, yeah, like it's been a really bad day and this and this. And I'm like, he walked away and came back and he was a new person. So
event.
Yeah, like being generally interested in people and what's going on in their world, because you never know what's happening that could be causing conflict in other aspects of their life.
So what do you think prevents people, because that's a rare thing for somebody to do what you just said you did, right?
I had to be brave. I've never done that before. Till that one time.
That one time. So like, what was your fear?
I didn't have, prior to that, or saying it at that time.
Right. You had to overcome some kind of fear to be brave, right?
I did. I think with age comes wisdom and maybe less caring of, think about, our grandparents who have no filters and you're like, wow, Granny just goes off and says whatever she wants.
She says every word that you're not allowed to say anymore.
I think it's a little bit of that. Like, you know what? I'm just going to call you out in a nice way, in a respectful way. So it just took me years, and I was not an assertive young woman at all. And what clicked? I don't know. I guess it's just experience and wisdom and knowledge and realizing, I have nothing to lose. Like, whatever. If somebody challenges me, I have the skills to engage them in an effective dialogue, not an argument, but a dialogue.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like self-management. It's funny that like everything that we deal with emotions really is just a reflection of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So it's like a lot of what I see in, like, let's say an agency, customer gets upset, agent starts talking to them. They already think where the conversation's going and they make it happen. Like, it literally happens because they treat the situation with the future outcome. Mm-hmm. And so like they literally create that situation to come about. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, like when you're saying that, it's like when we're young, we're so reactive, but as we get older, we understand a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Some of us more than others.
Definitely. Yeah. Not me.
That it's like we almost self-sabotage ourselves when it comes to
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's also having the emotional intelligence to know and to be able to read the room and to know your own emotional intelligence and say, okay, I know what I'm doing right now. I'm sabotaging myself.
No.
Yes.
I need to stop that. So being aware of what goes through our minds. And another interesting little fun fact about communication is that our brains are like, these computers, and they can process information so quickly that, you have probably already moved on to your next thought, and I'm still talking. It's because we process so quickly. And we do that in conversations. We're already thinking ahead, like, well, I'm going to say this. And it's like, but you didn't even hear what I was saying because you were thinking. And that's normal, but that's when we have to be mindful and direct ourselves back to the conversation at hand.
Yeah. So I just did that the other day with one of my team members. I was like, it looks like you don't like what I said. You kind of went like this when I said that. Mm-hmm. I'm all, well, how do you feel? Like, is that like, where are you at? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, she told me and stuff, but like, it's so much more helpful to come at it from that place, like interpret that, like what I'm interpreting isn't the right thing. It's because I've known him for a long time. So I know that it's like what I'm thinking that they're thinking is not right. So like there's a disconnect. So it's like put the words where I need to be, you know?
Yeah.
I love that you checked in. So standard, here's my professor hat. Okay. When I teach the communication model, you know, it's sender, message, channel, receiver, feedback, noise. So you got your message out and you realized by her feedback that something was off and you checked in. And if you hadn't checked in and you just kept going, you never would have had that information.
True.
So paying attention to people's nonverbal communication, how did they receive that? Do I need to paraphrase? So meta communication, or paraphrasing what I think I heard you say was this, or are we on the same page? Kind of like you did. I think that's amazing. Good job.
Well, and it's funny because I can do that with somebody that's more sensitive, but if I don't feel that they're more sensitive, then I don't do that. Like I will just, it's like the opposite. And then like, for some reason, I've been with my wife for 19 years, but like, I'm the worst with my wife with that.
Well, that's because a whole nother
special dynamic.
Why is that though?
Well,
why is it
built upon all of the issues that have happened and it just keeps stacking until all the stuff underneath has been addressed? And
we call that gunny sacking or kitchen sinking in the academic world. Very technical terms there. It's true. Yeah.